My name is Daniel. I'm 28 years old, and I've always considered myself the calm one in the family, the type who would rather quietly leave a room than fuel an argument. But nothing could have prepared me for the chaos that unfolded at my sister's wedding. Chaos that started with a single phone call and spiraled into something I still replay in my mind. If you've ever had a family member betray you in a way so outrageous it feels surreal, you'll understand the shock I felt standing there in my suit, holding a champagne glass, trying to look supportive on what was supposed to be her big day. The first half of the evening went as you'd expect. Guests chattered around the tables draped in white linen. The band played a cheerful melody, and my mother walked around smiling like she was the queen of the world. She thrives at events like this, loves the attention, the compliments, the subtle bragging about how hard she worked to give her daughter such a beautiful wedding. I've always known she cares more about appearances than reality, but I let it slide. After all, it was my sister's day, and despite my complicated feelings about how spoiled she'd been growing up, I wanted her to be happy. But as the first course was served, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it, thinking it was just a friend texting congratulations, but then I saw the caller ID, my bank. I excused myself, stepped slightly away from the table, and answered. The man on the line introduced himself as the branch manager. His tone was polite but firm. "Mr. Johnson, I'm calling regarding your overdue loan payment. We've sent notices, but we haven't received a response." My mind went blank. I've never taken out a loan in my life. I work hard, save diligently, and avoid debt like the plague. My first instinct was that it had to be a mistake. "What loan?" I asked, half laughing because the idea sounded ridiculous. The manager hesitated, as if surprised by my question. "Sir, the loan under your name, co-signed at our downtown branch. The one your mother arranged to pay for your sister's wedding." His words sliced through the noise of the reception like a blade. I froze, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. My heart pounded in my chest, and for a split second I thought maybe I had misheard him. My mother? A loan? In my name? For this wedding? I turned and looked across the room. There she was, raising a glass, laughing at something one of her friends said, as if nothing in the world could disturb her perfect little scene. Rage boiled in my stomach, but I forced myself to stay composed. "Are you telling me," I said into the phone, my voice steady but low, "that my mother took out a loan using my name?" The manager confirmed it, even reading off the paperwork details, my full name, my information, everything. I nearly dropped the phone. It was real. This wasn't a mistake or a prank. My own mother had committed fraud to fund this circus. I glanced around. My sister was glowing in her gown, my new brother-in-law beaming beside her. None of them had any idea. Or maybe they did. That thought twisted in my chest. Had my sister known all along? Did my dad know? The anger and betrayal surged together, colliding with years of memories. The times my mom pressured me to help the family. The countless instances when my sister's needs were prioritized over mine. The quiet way my father always nodded along, as if agreeing was easier than fighting back. Suddenly it all made sense. Of course they'd use me again. Of course they'd sacrifice my future for her spotlight. I realized I was still on speaker, and the manager was waiting. My next words came out louder than I expected, echoing across the table. "Well then, I guess this wedding is officially canceled, because I'm calling the police right now." Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. My voice, once quiet and overlooked, had cut through the music and chatter like thunder. My mother's smile froze. The band faltered. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating, like the pause before a storm. The chaos came instantly. My sister gasped, clutching my arm with panicked eyes. "Daniel, what are you doing? Don't ruin this." My new brother-in-law looked stunned, his fork suspended halfway to his mouth. My father's face turned red, his jaw tightening as if he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. And then my mother, my mother, stood up, her chair scraping back loudly. "Daniel," she barked, her voice carrying across the room. "Put that phone down. We'll discuss this later." But I wasn't a child anymore, and I wasn't about to be silenced. The manager was still on the line, his voice faint through the speaker. "Sir, if you'd like, I can connect you directly with our fraud department." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just let the words hang there, daring my family to explain themselves. My sister's bridesmaids whispered frantically. Guests exchanged wide-eyed glances, and the whispers began to ripple like wildfire. The perfect image my mother had built, the flawless facade she cherished, was cracking before her eyes. And I was the one holding the hammer. Inside, I was trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of it all. Years of resentment, years of being the afterthought, years of swallowing my anger to keep the peace. All of it was bubbling out now. And yet, a strange calm settled over me too. For the first time, I realized I held the power. They couldn't ignore me anymore. They couldn't brush me aside. I had their secret in my hand, and the entire room knew it. But here's the thing. I didn't hang up. I didn't call the police immediately. I just stood there, phone still on speaker, watching my mother's face drain of color, watching my father shift uncomfortably in his chair, watching my sister's eyes fill with tears, though whether they were for me or for her ruined party, I couldn't yet tell. The weight of silence pressed down as everyone waited for what I'd do next. I didn't move. My phone was still in my hand, the bank manager's voice faint on speaker, and every eye in the room glued to me. You know that moment when you realize everyone is waiting for you to either explode or back down. That was it. My palms were damp, my chest tight. But for once in my life, I wasn't shrinking into the background. My mother's lips parted like she was about to scold me, but she stopped when she saw the look in my eyes. For years, she'd held control through shame and intimidation. Tonight, she didn't. My sister tugged at my sleeve, whispering urgently, "Daniel, stop. Please, not here. Don't do this to me." Her voice cracked, but I could hear the edge of desperation. She wasn't worried about me, or about the fact that our mother had just destroyed my financial future. She was worried about her spotlight fading. That realization cut deeper than I expected. The bank manager broke the silence. "Mr. Johnson, do you want me to proceed with the fraud investigation? I'll need confirmation from you." His voice carried through the speaker, formal and detached, but it felt like a gunshot in the middle of the ballroom. The guests whispered louder, some gasping, others craning their necks to see what was happening. The gossip train was already rolling, and nothing could stop it. My father finally spoke. His voice was low, almost pleading. "Daniel, son, let's not make a scene. Your mother she made a mistake. We'll fix it. After tonight." He glanced nervously at the guests, as if their judgment was more terrifying than the fact that his wife had committed fraud. I turned to him, my jaw tight. "A mistake? Dad, this isn't forgetting to pick up milk. This is identity theft. This is my credit. My life." My voice cracked slightly at the end, not from weakness, but from the sheer weight of betrayal pressing down on me. My mother straightened, trying to regain her composure. She raised her chin and said with an icy calm, "I did what I had to do for this family. You should be grateful, Daniel. Your sister deserves this wedding, and you'll survive a little debt. Family sacrifices for each other." I almost laughed, but it came out bitter. Sacrifices? Funny, because it's always me on the altar. Never her. Never you. Always me. My words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. My sister flinched, and for the first time, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, or just fear that I'd actually follow through with my threat. The band, unsure of what to do, had stopped playing altogether. You could hear the clink of silverware as someone nervously set down their fork. A child whispered, "What's happening, Mommy?" and the mother shushed them quickly. The entire hall had become a stage, and I was the unwilling star. The bank manager cleared his throat. "Sir, I'll need an answer." Before I could respond, my mother lunged toward me, her hand gripping my wrist. Her nails dug into my skin as she hissed, "Daniel, put the phone away. Right now. Don't embarrass me in front of everyone." Her mask was slipping. The sweet, charming hostess she played so effortlessly was gone, replaced with raw panic. I pulled my arm back. "You don't get to tell me what to do anymore." My voice was louder than I meant, but I didn't care. "You stole from me. You lied to me. And you thought I'd just sit quietly like always? Not this time." Gasps erupted from the tables. One of my cousins muttered, "Oh my God," while an older relative shook his head, muttering about disgrace. My sister buried her face in her hands, whispering something to her husband, who looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Inside, I felt a strange mix of fury and liberation. I was shaking, yes, but not from fear. From release. All the years of swallowing insults, all the years of being the backup, the forgotten one, it was pouring out of me now, and there was no stuffing it back in. The bank manager's voice came again, insistent. Mr. Johnson, should I connect you to our fraud department? I raised the phone slightly, staring straight at my mother. What do you think I should say, Mom? Should I tell him yes? Or do you want to explain to the room why their tax dollars might be paying for your bail? Her face turned pale. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. Not anger, not control, fear. My father reached for her hand, but she shook him off, still trying to maintain some illusion of authority. Daniel, enough. You will not ruin your sister's wedding. I tilted my head, the corner of my mouth lifting into a small, humorless smile. Oh, Mom, you already did that. The whispers grew louder. Guests leaned across tables, their conversations a murmur of disbelief. The perfect picture my mother had crafted was crumbling faster than she could patch it. And then my sister snapped. She stood up, her gown swishing as she shoved back her chair. Her voice was shrill, cutting through the noise. Daniel, can't you just let me have this one day? Why do you always have to make it about you? Her words hit like a slap, and my chest tightened. Always about me? Always. I turned slowly to face her, my eyes narrowing. This isn't about me wanting attention, Emily. This is about our mother stealing my future so you could have a party. You knew, didn't you? My voice cracked again, raw and wounded. Tell me the truth. Did you know? Her lips trembled, and she glanced at Mom, then at her new husband. Silence. That silence was louder than any confession. My stomach dropped. The betrayal deepened, sharper than before. The bank manager, still on speaker, cleared his throat again. Sir, if you're not ready to proceed, we can call back tomorrow. But I'll need an answer soon. I didn't reply. My thumb hovered over the screen, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. My mother's chest heaved as she tried to keep her composure. My father looked away, ashamed. My sister's face was blotchy, tears streaking her makeup. The room was silent, waiting. And then I smiled. A small, cold smile. No, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You don't get to decide how this ends. I do. The room erupted again, half in whispers, half in stunned silence. My phone was still on speaker. My family was cornered. And for the first time in my life, I had all the power. That was the moment everything shifted. That was the moment the mask of our perfect family shattered completely. And what I did next, well, let's just say no one saw it coming. I could feel the weight of the entire hall pressing in on me. Every breath I took seemed louder than the whispers that buzzed from table to table. My hand tightened around the phone, the bank manager still patiently waiting for my response. Sir, do you need me to stay on the line? His voice was calm, professional, but the silence around me turned it into an announcement. I lowered the phone slightly, just enough to let the line stay open while I stared down my family. My mother finally broke, her voice cracking as she hissed. Daniel, please. Not here. We'll sort it out later. I'll make it right. She stepped closer, her eyes darting nervously around the room. She was terrified, not of me, but of what these people thought. Her whole identity had always been tied to appearances, and now, with just a few words, I'd ripped it away from her. I leaned in just enough for her to hear me clearly. You'll make it right? You can't even say you're sorry. You can't even admit you did something wrong. My voice trembled, not with fear, but with anger I'd swallowed for years. My father, still sitting stiff in his chair, rubbed his temples and muttered, For God's sake, Daniel, lower your voice. We'll talk at home. His tone wasn't pleading anymore. It was commanding, the same way he used to shut me down as a teenager whenever I dared to speak up. For a moment, that old reflex to obey tugged at me, but then I caught sight of my sister. Emily was crying, her makeup running, but there was something else in her face. Not guilt, not regret, frustration, anger. Like I was the one ruining her perfect day instead of being the one who had been betrayed. That look cut deeper than anything my parents said. She knew. She had to. And instead of standing by me, she was glaring at me as though I was the problem. I took a shaky breath and turned back to the guests, raising my voice deliberately. For everyone wondering what's happening, here it is. My mother stole my identity, took out a loan in my name, and used it to pay for this wedding. Gasps, whispers, heads turning. One of my uncles muttered, That can't be true, but the bank manager's voice chimed in through the phone like a verdict. That is correct. The loan is currently overdue, and it is listed under Mr. Daniel Johnson's name. His words sent the room spiraling into chaos. People clutched at their pearls, leaned into each other, shook their heads in disbelief. The gossip was wildfire now, unstoppable. My mother lunged again, but I stepped back. You don't get to silence me this time. My chest heaved as I looked at my sister. Emily, tell me the truth. Did you know? Her lip quivered. She looked down, then up at me, then down again. No words. The silence was enough. My heart dropped into my stomach, the betrayal sharp and clear. She didn't have to say it. Her silence screamed louder than anything. You didn't know. I whispered, my voice breaking. You let this happen. You let her ruin me so you could stand here in a dress and smile for pictures. Emily's husband finally spoke up, his voice uneasy. Daniel, please calm down. This isn't the place. His attempt at reason only fanned the flames inside me. Not the place. I shot back. When would be the place? After the bank destroys my credit? After I can't buy a home because my mother decided her daughter's wedding mattered more than my future? The crowd had split now. Some sat in shocked silence. Others whispered furiously. I could hear someone say, "Unbelievable, her own son," and another mutter, "This family's a mess." My mother's kingdom was collapsing around her, and she knew it. Daniel, she snapped, her voice trembling. Enough. Do you want to humiliate me? Do you want to destroy your sister's happiness? All because of some paperwork. The words stung, not because of what she said, but because of what she didn't. Not once did she acknowledge the betrayal. Not once did she say she was sorry. To her, it was all just paperwork. Something inside me hardened. I straightened my back, lifted the phone again, and said clearly, "Yes, connect me to the fraud department." My words echoed through the hall. My mother's knees buckled slightly, and she gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. But then, something unexpected happened. My grandfather, my mom's father, stood up. He was frail, his hair white as snow, but his voice carried across the room with surprising strength. "Is this true?" he demanded, his sharp gaze fixed on my mother. The room fell into silence again, all eyes turning to him. He had always been respected, the quiet patriarch who rarely raised his voice. My mother stammered, "Dad, please, it's not what it sounds like." But he cut her off. "Don't lie to me. Did you take out that loan in Daniel's name?" She faltered, looking between him, me, and the stunned guests. Her lips trembled, and in that moment, I saw something I never thought I'd see. My mother caught in a corner, with no excuse left. I clenched the phone tighter, my pulse racing. My whole life, she had been untouchable. Always right, always in control. But now, in front of everyone she cared about impressing, her empire was crumbling. And just as she opened her mouth to speak, my phone buzzed again. Another call was coming in, flashing across the screen. It was from the police department. I froze, staring at the screen as the hall held its collective breath. I stared at the screen, the flashing call notification almost blinding me. My thumb hovered for just a second before I swiped to accept. The bank manager's line cut off, replaced by a calm but firm voice. "This is Officer Reynolds with the Financial Crimes Unit. Mr. Johnson, we've received a request to follow up regarding fraudulent loan activity. Are you able to speak right now?" Every muscle in my body tensed. I had a choice: step back, cover this up, save my family from public disgrace, or take the plunge and expose everything once and for all. I looked at my mother, her face pale and trembling, my father with his jaw clenched tight, and my sister frozen like a statue in her gown. Then I glanced at my grandfather, who stood tall despite his age, his eyes burning with a mixture of anger and disappointment. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "I can speak right now." The officer continued. "We've reviewed the documents provided by the bank. The loan was taken out under your name, but signed by another party. We'll need your confirmation to proceed with pressing charges." I raised the phone slightly, loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. "Yes, officer. I want to press charges." Gasps rippled through the hall. Someone dropped a glass, the shatter echoing like a gavel hitting wood. My mother staggered back, shaking her head. "No, Daniel. You can't mean that. I'm your mother." Her words sliced through me. For a moment, the child in me, the boy who had once craved her approval, hesitated. But then I remembered the countless times I'd been the sacrifice for her schemes, her lies, her favoritism. I remembered being told to be grateful, while my sister got everything handed to her. I remembered the sting of being invisible, except when I was needed as a pawn. And now, I remembered the debt, the fraud, the betrayal. I do mean it. I said softly but firmly. You crossed a line, and I'm not cleaning up your mess anymore. The officer gave instructions. Stay where you are. We'll send a unit to take statements. Do not let the suspect leave. The words hit like a hammer. My mother's knees gave out, and she slumped into a chair, her face drained of color. My father tried to whisper to her, but his words fell flat. For the first time in my life, they looked small, powerless. My sister finally found her voice, shrill and desperate. Daniel, please, don't do this. Think about what you're doing to me. To you? I turned, my voice shaking with rage. This isn't about you, Emily. This is about me. About Mom stealing from me so you could stand here in a dress, pretending this day is perfect. You knew. You stayed silent. And now you're asking me to protect you. Her tears spilled freely, but I didn't flinch. The guests were silent, some horrified, some whispering about scandal and unbelievable betrayal. My grandfather sat down heavily, his cane clattering against the floor, and covered his face with his hands. The minutes crawled by like hours. My phone still buzzed with instructions, and the atmosphere grew heavier with every tick of the clock. Then, the sound of sirens pierced the night. They grew louder, closer, until flashing lights spilled through the hall's windows. The doors opened, and two officers stepped inside. The chatter stopped instantly. One of them, a tall woman with sharp eyes, asked, "Which of you is Daniel Johnson?" I raised my hand, my heart pounding. "That's me." She nodded. "We'll need your statement. But first," she turned her gaze to my mother. "Ma'am, we have reason to believe you committed financial fraud by taking out a loan under your son's name without authorization. You'll need to come with us." The room erupted again. My mother shot to her feet, shaking her head violently. "No, this is ridiculous. He's lying. He's making a scene because he's jealous of his sister." She pointed at me, her finger trembling. The officer remained calm. "The documents bear your signature. You can explain everything at the station." My father tried to step in, his voice weak. "Please, there must be some mistake." "Sir, step back," the officer warned. And then it happened. My mother, the woman who had always been untouchable, was handcuffed in front of her family, her friends, and every single guest at the wedding she had fought so hard to fund. The sight was surreal. The gasp that went through the crowd was almost physical, a wave of shock that left the hall frozen. As they led her away, she turned her head, eyes wild, and spat out, "You'll regret this, Daniel. You've ruined everything." But for the first time in my life, her words didn't pierce me. They bounced off. I stood taller, straighter, as the officers guided her through the doors. The sirens faded into the night, and the silence left behind was suffocating. I turned back to the room. My sister was sobbing, her husband looking pale and shaken. My father sat slumped in his chair, broken, muttering to himself. And my grandfather, after a long silence, looked up at me. His eyes were full of sorrow, but also something else, pride. "You did the right thing, Daniel," he said quietly, but the words carried. It's about time someone stood up to her. The guests began to murmur again, some leaving quietly, others staying to witness the fallout. The wedding was over. Not with a dance, not with laughter, but with handcuffs and betrayal. In the days that followed, everything unraveled. The news spread fast, first among relatives, then through the community. The Johnson wedding scandal, people called it. My mother faced charges of fraud and identity theft. The bank worked with me to clear my name, though the process was long and draining. My father avoided me, humiliated and bitter. My sister didn't call, didn't text. The only message she sent was a single line: "I hope you're happy." But I wasn't happy. I wasn't celebrating. I was exhausted, grieving the family I thought I had. And yet, beneath that grief, there was relief. For the first time in my life, I wasn't their pawn anymore. I wasn't the one carrying their burdens. I was free. Weeks later, I visited my grandfather. We sat on his porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. He patted my hand and said, "You broke the cycle, Daniel. Don't ever let them make you feel guilty for protecting yourself." His words stayed with me. And though my family may never forgive me, though the scars of that night will never fully fade, I know one thing with absolute certainty: I did the right thing. Because sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to burn the bridge behind you and never look back.